Hello everyone. Let's start with our SQL commands in DBMS. What is this SQL? What are various commands, various types of commands, and what each command performs for a table? This is all what we should see in our SQL commands now. Basically, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. So, this particular language is used to provide various query in order to perform various tasks on a table. As such, the SQL commands are divided into various groups called as DDL, DML, DCL, and TCL. So, what are these actually? The commands in all these groups will perform various tasks. For a table, if you have to perform certain tasks on it, because we are creating tables, we are trying to retrieve data from the tables, we are trying to modify various things, we are trying to delete certain things, we are trying to drop certain things. So all such operations are divided into various groups and they are described as DDL, DML, DCL, and TCL. So what are these? So if you consider DDL language, DDL stands for Data Definition Language. This particular DDL is used to define the table. This DDL is used to define the table, nothing but define the database. Similarly, when you consider DML, DML is nothing but data manipulation language, which consists of all these various commands. By using this DML commands, we can perform various manipulations on the table. We can perform various manipulations on the table. DCL stands for Data Control Language. That means this particular language, the commands in this language are used to perform or apply control for a particular table, for that table, so that you will be able to whether retrieve or not, or all such things which will be performed in data control language. Next, it is transaction control language. This particular commands, the four commands here, deals with all the transactions. So whenever you go through your transactions, you will be performing or using these particular commands in order to determine or work with the table. Okay, so now let us see each of this subgroup and their commands within the subgroup, their syntax, what they are doing for the table, what is the output when these things are done. This is what we should see. So first of all, let us come to the data definition language, which is nothing but a DDL. So this data definition language determines how the data should reside in the database. What is the structure of the database? So data definition language basically determines the structure of the database, which means nothing but in database terms, it is called as schema. When you say it is a structure, it is nothing but called as a schema. Structure of a table is nothing but called as database schema. As well, it determines how the data should reside in the database. So in what terms the data should be available in the database is determined by data definition language. As such, it needs certain commands. Those commands are nothing but create, alter, drop, truncate, and rename. Okay, now these particular commands, if you consider create is used to create a database, alter is used to alter the structure of the database, because data definition language basically works with the structure. So it determines, it is used to alter the structure of the database. Drop determines or is used to delete objects from the database. So when you delete certain objects from the database, the structure of the database gets modified. This is what you should understand here. This is what you should understand. When you say data definition language, as it is determining the structure, the schema of the database. So whatever commands comes under this data definition language will all work on the structure of the database. As such, drop is used to delete objects from the database, which is determining the structure. Truncate is used to remove certain records from a table, the entire records, okay, including all spaces allocated for the records are also removed. As such, if you remove, see if you can understand, let us suppose there are 5 rows, 5 records in a table. If you are trying to remove certain 2 records, then what will be the size of the table? It will be consisting of 3 records, yes or no? So that that process is done by truncate. Truncate is used to remove the records from the table, and rename is used to rename an object or rename the table. Okay, so let's see the syntax of each of the command now. Create. This create is used to create a new table. That means as of now you don't have any table, but now you're creating a new table with certain name for it. So the syntax is something like this. Create a table is compulsory. The table name. This table name varies from one table to the other table. If you're creating an employee table, you'll be using employee as the table name. If you're creating student table, you'll be using student as the table name. Okay, create table, table name. Create table are the keywords. You're not supposed to change any of these two things. Create table, table name, column name, data types. Okay, so each column name and its data type must be specified in the DDL command, that is create. So the create table syntax is something like this. So when you're writing the example, it should be create table employee. Employee can consist of various things like employee ID, employee name, employee age, all these things. All those employee ID, name, age, all these things comes under column name, and it's a particular data type. So data type basically we'll be using varchar, because which is used to take all types of data. If it is hall ticket number of a student, if it is related to some JNTU university, what will happen? You'll have it in terms of it is a mixture of all numbers and alphabets. Yes or no? So the such, if you wanted to perform such things, you'll be using something called as a data type called as varchar, variable character. Okay, and this is also used to, if at all, if you wanted to increase some more the range of the particular attribute like column, you can do it. So this is what it determines. Create a table, table name. This can be employee, student, teacher, faculty, whatever it is. Create table. The name of the table is employee. Now these columns determines what are all the attributes associated with this particular database. Nothing but this particular table. If it is employee, you'll have employee ID, employee name, employee age, employee profession, etc. Employee salary. If it is a student, you'll have student ID, student name, student branch, student course, etc. Something like that. So all these columns are associated with the table name here. All these columns are associated with the table name. So this is one of the DDL command, that is create. Coming to the next thing, it is drop. Drop is used to delete both the structure and record stored in the table. So the entire table gets dropped. So the syntax is something like this: drop table, table name, or it can be drop table name. Anything is okay. If you say drop table employee, that means the entire data which is stored in the table will be dropped. It will be removed off completely. Without that means that because it is working on the structure, so it completely destroys the structure of the table. Okay, next coming to the alter. Alter command is used for altering the table structure. Okay, this is also a DDL command, which data definition language command, which is used to determine the structure of the database. As such, alter command is used for altering the table structure. Let's see the syntax of it. Syntax is alter table, keywords you should not change, table name, name of our table, add. Add what? Add, we are adding certain column. Column, and whenever you are trying to do something with the column, you should write its data type, obviously, because it is the column name, attribute name. So it should have data type associated with it always. Now using alter, what are we trying to do? We are trying to add one more column to the to particular table. So alter table student, add what? Add what? Address. I'm adding address to the student table. That means earlier when I created student table, there is no column like address, but now I wanted to add one more column, so I'll be using address. Because when I add, earlier it was 4 columns without address. Now if I wanted to add address, it will become 5 columns. That means the table structure is getting changed from 4 columns to 5 columns. As such, alter comes under data definition language, because it is working on the structure, it is not working on the data inside. It is working on the structure of the database, on the outer view of the database. Understand clearly. So alter table, table name is student. Let us suppose add, you're trying to add something, that is column, and it's a data type, associated data type. So this will add a new column address to the already existing table. Okay, with the, it's a data type which is of range 200. That is what is DDL, DDL's alter command. Coming to rename an existing column. Suppose you had some name earlier like date of birth, which is something like this. You wanted to add some more or change default to some other value. So you should be using alter table name. What you wanted to, add some default value to an existing table. So for the table which is given as date of birth DOB, which is of type date, default, which is default to something like this. If I wanted to modify like this, I can even modify. Is this clear? So this alter table determines is used to, alter command is used to add as well as rename any existing column. As well, using alter, you can change the data type of any column or modify its size, because you're always dealing with the columns in DDL. So by using alter, you can even change, that is modify the data type of any column. Earlier it is something, now you wanted it to change to varchar of 300. Let us suppose earlier it was varchar of 200. Now if you wanted to change it to or extend to more, then you'll be using varchar. That means you'll be trying to change the size of the database, sorry, size of the column. So this is address varchar of 300. Okay, this is what is alter table used for. Next, coming to drop. By using alter command, you will be dropping a particular column. If you wanted to drop a particular column, simply drop the column. Now we are saying that it's a column, should be used, what is this, should be use the data type, because always whenever you have a column, you should have a data type. Yes, of course. But what are we trying to do here? What is the operation, that is drop? Drop is used to remove the column. When you are trying to remove a particular column, there is no use of thinking about its data type, what type of data it is. You just thought to remove this particular column from the entire table. So that suppose if the size of, that means the number of columns in the database is 5, by removing this particular column called address, it is changing to 4. In that case, you are no way related or associated with, you will be no way associated with the data type, just because you wanted to delete that. You wanted to delete that. Is that clear? So this is what is all. This is the other use of alter command. So alter command is used to add a particular column, remove a column, as well as change the size of the column. All these things are done using the alter command. Okay, next it is a truncate command. Truncate command is also a DDL command, data definition language command. So this truncate command removes all the records from a table, as we have seen. Okay, as such it will destroy the table structure, because it is obviously removing the records. So how, what is the syntax of truncate? Truncate table name. Example, this should be followed by a semicolon here. And example, truncate table keywords, no change. You are not supposed to change anything. Student, I am trying to truncate student table. Okay, so this truncate will perform um, removing the records from a table. So these are what is happening when you perform all these operations on a table, perform all these commands on a table. You are finding the result in the structure of the database. Finding the result in the structure of the database, not with the values inside the database. That is what is actually data definition language. Data definition language is used to determine the structure of the database, is used to determine the structure of the database. Okay, so Coming to the next command, that is drop command. This drop command is used to completely remove the table. Firstly, we created the table. There was no table at all. We started creating the table. Now you have a particular table. Now you are trying to remove the table. For that purpose, you will be using drop command. Drop table, table name. As usual, followed by a semicolon. Drop table, table name, complete table name. Okay, so this will delete the student table because we have used student here. Student table completely. It can also be used on databases to delete the complete database. Okay, so for example, to drop a database, you'll be using drop database name. Drop database data, because before you start creating a table, you'll be creating some database, and within that database you'll try to create all your tables. Yes, and in between you'll be describing the database, you'll be describing the tables, right? So in order to identify what are all the tables available in your database, you'll be using the database by using use database space the database name. Yes or no? So earlier we don't have, before create command we don't have any table, so we started creating a table. That means some structure is formed for the table. We performed various operations like we added certain columns, we deleted certain columns, we changed the size of certain columns, we added certain rows, we deleted certain rows. Yes or no? All these things are performed on the table by using all DDL commands such that they all work on the structure of the table, structure of the database. Similarly here, we have a drop command. As we created a new table, now we are trying to delete the entire table. For that, you'll be using drop table. Okay, similarly you can also drop the database. You can also drop the database just by saying drop database test. Is this clear? So even this also works on the structure of the database. Next, it is rename. Rename command is used to set a new name for any existing table. Rename, the name itself specifies that it is used to set a new name to the actually existing database. So earlier the name of the table is rename table. This is always rename table. This is keywords. This not be changed. Rename table. Old table name which is there, 2. 2 is again a keyword here. 2 new table name followed by semicolon. Is this clear? So what are you trying to do? You are trying to change the name of the table. So now if at all, if you try to display all your tables in the database, earlier it was a different table, now it will be a different table. Is this clear? So this is what happens with all your DDL commands, data definition language commands. So what is all happening here? You are all trying to perform operations on the structure of the database. So earlier we don't have any structure, so we started creating the structure. Similarly, we tried to add certain columns, we tried to delete certain columns, we try to delete certain rows such that it is affecting the structure of the database. Okay, we try to delete certain records, we try to remove the table completely, we try to rename the table from one name to the other. Okay, all these commands are performed on the structure of the database. This is all nothing but DDL commands in your structured query language commands. So whenever in a database, whenever you are using, when you are trying to create a table, you should be doing all these things. Is this clear? You should be using all these DDL commands.